Okay, this is 3.3 about analyzing graphs of quadratic functions. It doesn't match exactly what our book does, but these are the things that I think are important. So these three words or phrases, vertex, the axis of symmetry, and the range, you should be able to get from these graphs, okay? So the vertex, and deciding whether it's a maximum or minimum, the axis of symmetry, which I often abbreviate AOS because axis of symmetry is too many words to write, and range are our Y values, so we'll get a chance to practice that as well. So I look at this first graph. I'm sorry some of the lines didn't show up, but the first graph, if I look, here's the vertex right here, and the vertex is the point 1, 2, at least it's supposed to be 1, 2, and then you ask yourself, is that a maximum or a minimum? And because it's at the bottom, it's a minimum. So that's important. Minimum. Okay? If I wanted to ask what the range was, notice the smallest value for the range is my 2, and then it keeps going up, right? So the range is going to start at 2, and it's going to continue going up. So it's infinity. So that's my range, is 2 to infinity, and I'm going to include the 2 because it actually lives on that line there. Okay, so now I have axis of symmetry. Axis of symmetry, as one of classmates in class said, it's if you fold it along that line, it matches up. So this line down the middle here, this vertical line, all axis of symmetries for parabolas are vertical. And so I look at this and I go, axis of symmetry. Well, if it's vertical, AOS, if it's vertical, I know it's got to be x equals some number because it goes through the x-axis and there's no y-intercept. So it's got to be x equals some number. What is that number that x equals? Well, x equals 1 in this case. And I want you to notice that the axis of symmetry is the same as the x-coordinate of your vertex. And the other thing I want you to notice, that the y-coordinate is where the range will either start or stop, depending on whether the parabola opens up or opens down. So that vertex is huge. It's very important. It's pretty easy to find, but just so you know, it's really pretty important, okay? And the axis of symmetry is always x equals a number. Okay, if I look at this one, x equals a number, right? So here's my vertex. Sorry, again, that the lines didn't show up. The vertex is the point 3, 2. This time it's a maximum, right? Because it's upside down, and that's as high up as it goes. So notice my axis of symmetry is this line down the middle of my parabola, right? My axis of symmetry, and it's x equals a number. What is the number? Well, it's the number 3 because it goes through the 3 on the x-axis. So that's my axis of symmetry. Again, notice that this 3 and x equals 3, notice they're the same. Okay, so then the other thing we have to know is the range. And the range this time is starting down here at negative infinity, right? It's going to go all the way down to negative infinity and goes up until I reach this point, right? That point right there, which is 2. I'll change colors because I can. So right there, it goes up to 2. So it's going to be up to 2, and then I'm going to include that. So those three things are easy enough to find if I'm given a graph. What if I'm given an equation? Well, here is the equation for my axis of symmetry. And you're like, oh my goodness, another thing to memorize. Well, it's really part of the quadratic equation or quadratic formula. So if I remember you're supposed to memorize this. The quadratic formula, remember, pop goes the weasel, x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, right? Notice negative b over 2a, notice negative b over 2a, right? There it is. It's hiding right there. in plain sight. So if you know the quadratic formula, you're going to know the axis of symmetry equation, and hopefully vice versa. So you need to get that into your brain, x equals negative b over 2a. And then remember, your calculator can help you find it also, right? Okay, so here's my equation. In this equation, a equals -1. So right away, as soon as I write that, I'm thinking, oh, this parabola opens down, right? Because it's got a negative for the a value. B equals 6, and even though we don't need c, sometimes I write it because I feel bad for c. All right, so x equals -b over 2a, so -6 over 2 times -1, that's going to be the number 3. So my axis of symmetry is x equals 3. That's it, right down here on the middle. Okay, on the next page we'll also find the vertex and other things, but that's my axis of symmetry, x equals 3. That's easy enough if I know the formula. Now this one, you're going to have to do a little bit of work if you don't recognize it, which you probably don't. So I'm just going to go ahead and write this twice, x plus 4 plus 3. So I get x squared plus 8x plus 16 plus 3. So I get x squared plus 8x. Notice this plus 19 really is not that important anyway, because we have a equals 1, b equals 8, and c equals 19. And this parabola is going to open up because my a is positive. So x equals -b over 2a. So that's -8 over 2 times 1, which is -4. So x equals -4. Okay, real quick, we'll do one of these. So the vertex is on the axis of symmetry. So we'll just do one of these and find the vertex. So the first thing we're going to do is find the axis of symmetry, because that's kind of where it all goes into play. So I have a equals -2, b equals 3, c equals -1. This parabola is going to open down. So my vertex is going to be a maximum, right? These are all the things that are going through your head. So x equals -b over 2a. If they're not going through your head, start making them go through your head. So -3 over 2 times -2 makes 3/4. So I know that this is x equals 3/4. That's the line. Okay, great. So my vertex, I know half of it, right? The vertex, I know the x-coordinate is 3/4. How am I going to find the y-coordinate? The y-coordinate. Well, we have y equals here, right? Can I just plug it in for x? You're like, absolutely. So y equals -2 times 3/4 squared plus 3 times 3/4 minus 1. And if I remember from class, y equals 1/8. So this is going to be 1/8 is the vertex. So this is my axis of symmetry, x equals 3/4. This is my vertex. Let's quick do the range. Since it's upside down, like we said here, my maximum value is 1/8 because that's the y value of my vertex. So I'm going to be -8, negative infinity to 1/8, and I'm going to include that because it's a maximum. All right? If you have more questions, let me know.